Welcome to West Coast Women Rising, a podcast celebrating women who are making waves on the coast and beyond through purpose-driven entrepreneurship and powerful personal growth. I'm JJ Flizanes, one of the co-hosts of this podcast, and this is Tawney Noriega. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about my story. On the episode prior to this one, we talked about Tawney, so make sure if you didn't hear that, go back and listen because it's rich and juicy and inspiring, and you're going to want to know all about Tawney. And today we're going to flip the mic a little bit, and she's going to interview me.
I'm super excited. Now let's dive into all things of who JJ is. Where do we
Perfect.
even start today?
Where would you like to start?
Well, I loved our episode of you interviewing me, and kind of just like same thing, like drop us into how did you even get here onto a podcast? I know it's like a long backstory. I kind of gave a long backstory too, but kind of start us off at the most pivotal point for you on how it navigated getting to this spot.
Okay. So, as a very curious child who always questioned, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And looked at the world through that lens of how do I get to do that? How do I get to do that? They did it, so someone must know how to do it. And that led me, I actually had an acting background. I went to school for musical theater, and because I just wanted to do all of it. I wanted to become a lawyer. I wanted to become an adventurer. I wanted to play all the roles. I wanted to experience all the things in life. And what ended up happening through my career as a actress, so to speak, I also needed a day job. And so I ended up getting involved in the gym. And because I also cared about my body, I wanted to keep it healthy, I wanted to keep it strong, I wanted to keep it lean. And I'd been dieting since I was like 12, which is super unhealthy and for another conversation. And so when I went to the gym, I started to learn science. Now, prior to learning science of the body and sciences, I thought, oh, I'm just a right brain kid. I'm emotional. I love poetry. I love dancing. I love singing. I'm just that right brain kid. And I didn't know that I was smart. And then all of a sudden, I started to learn science. I took a couple personal training certifications, and I'm like, oh, I understand this. Because in school, science bored me. I didn't like math it's fine. Yes, math is important. We need to balance our checkbooks. We need to know how to earn money and to invest money. But all of the different maths at the time, when you don't have any money, and when you're looking at like algebra, I'm like, who cares? I don't like none of it. I didn't care about it. None of it was personal. It didn't affect me. So when I became a personal trainer and all the sciences were sciences that affected how my body looked, felt, performed, and aged, now I care. And so now when you put a context to it, I got really good at it. So fast forward, I'm now acting in personal training. And at some point in time, I have to sort of make a decision. And I made the decision that I'd rather be me than somebody else. So I ended up leaning straight into the personal training. And I did that for a long time. I have some great accolades. I was named Best Personal Trainer in Los Angeles for 2007 by Elite Traveler Magazine. I've been on a bunch of media, NBC, KTLA, Fox, all the things. I've got a really good resume about the personal training background. But what I was doing during the personal training that really got me excited, because again, the science piece, and I'm a why girl. I love to know why. Do I make it incessant? I don't. Can you make it incessant? Absolutely. But I ask enough to learn enough to make an informed decision. And then when I know enough about whatever I'm seeking out and I have my answer, I'm done. I don't have to keep seeking. I'm good. I got my answer. But I seek until I find my answer. So here now, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm smart. And again, that whole right brain part of me, the acting, the personal development, the seeing through different people's eyes. I learned astrology when I was in college, and I was fascinated and mesmerized by astrology. And I'm looking for evidence all in life about how different signs play out and how it feels. And so literally I've been studying astrology forever. And when I was working with my clients, something didn't fit with the whole personal training, fitness, weight loss industry. There was never the focus on the internal part of that, the emotional part of that. And some people come and they want to lose weight. And I just would feel it. Like I walked into the gym. I used to be a trainer at a gym in like Washington area, Marina Del Rey area, where Anthony Sabato Jr. used to work out, and he'd come with sunglasses on. It was hilarious. And I just could feel, like you could feel walking in to the gym that they were people who hated themselves and they hated how they looked. And as they're on the treadmill, you can feel them saying, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. And so I was looking for my brand at the time. I had a manager that said, you need to write a book. And I said, okay, well, see, I'm not the person who who had a transformation, like I lost 100 pounds. That isn't me. So what is my story? I had to figure out what my story was. And so my story was that I had manifested my husband, and I was working on law of attraction and teaching law of attraction to all my clients who didn't want to know anything about it, actually, because personal training clients don't hire you to teach them law of attraction. They want you to work on their diet and exercise. So I was working out my skill sets, if you will. I was itching to go deeper all of the time, from emotions to law of attraction to processing emotions, all the things, trauma, but I didn't have the best people to do it with necessarily because they weren't really on board for that. So I wrote a book called Fit. My first book is called Fit to Love: How to Get Physically, Emotionally, and Spiritually Fit to Attract Love of Your Life. My story was that my self-care routine was the groundwork for the vibrational frequency that I live in to attract what I want, because I was already living it. I was already doing the things for myself that most people want for them, from spouses or boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever. So after Fit to Love, I'd written another book, and somewhere in there I was looking for, like, I had so much content. Again, I was just so interested in everything that was spiritual, everything that was astrology, everything that's quantum physics, everything that was epigenetics, and at the same time the physical body. And so I went to a writer's workshop up in San Francisco because I was ready to write. At this point, it would have been the third book. I was ready to write the third book. And I go into this writer's workshop, and there's a guy who's speaking, and he's a podcaster, and he kind of explains financially like what had happened to him with his podcast. He did it for 2 years. He made no money. And but in the 2 year mark, and again, this is a while ago, at the 2 year mark, Apple featured him. They used to have Apple Podcasts and used to have a feature bar at the top, and they would feature different podcasts, and they still do, but mostly they're famous people now. And they featured him, and all of a sudden his downloads went skyrocketing, and he had these huge amounts of people listening to a show, and then he turned around and he made a membership. And he lost most of his listeners, but he retained a certain amount. I don't remember what the numbers were. It was something like he was charging $20 a month and he kept 2,500 people, or he had 2,000 people a month and he was charging 2,500. Doesn't matter which way you skew it. It's about $50,000 a month from a membership that he got from his podcast. So what I heard was, and I had so much content. I told a psychic actually here in Ohio. I wasn't living here yet, but I'd come up, and Rose, she used to live here. She's moved. But I said to Rose, I feel like a backed up hose. I have so much content that I want to do something with, but I don't know where to put it, because let me tell you, as most of you can already hear, my brain works way faster than my fingers. So there was no way in hell I was blogging. Writing, and I'm working on the fourth book. Writing was not happening. Not at the rate at which I get inspired and want to talk about shit. In fact, I'm writing my fourth book, and yesterday I literally recorded it. I'm like, okay, here's chapter 2. Give me the transcript. Here, let's clean it up, and boom, I'm done. Like, looking at a blank page of paper, not happening. So basically, I went to this writer's workshop, and I came out with a podcast. I was like, oh, and then I'm like trying to figure out what the brand is. I'm like, duh, it's Fit to Love. Here's a brand that you can put everything under. And that's how it started, basically. So in 2014, I went to that writers conference in March, and I had decided I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to give myself and my clients a place where I'm going to archive everything I teach, from form on the fitness side and resistance training, to food, to how to cook, like how to have healthy, easy, paleo, gluten-free, dairy-free meals at home that you can make that don't take forever. And then I would talk with other experts. I would do solo shows, and each day of the week had a different theme. So Movement Mondays was a video, and that was definitely exercise and biomechanics. Tasty Tuesdays was cooking, and I had guest chefs come on with me. Even Layla Ali was on my show a couple times. We did a couple with her new book. We did a couple of her recipes. Wellness Wednesdays was audio, and that was on hormones and just wellness in general. So it was an umbrella. Anything could go under: nutrition. Thursdays was Thoughtful Thursdays. So that was more psychology, behavior, mindset. Freedom Fridays was my guilty pleasure. Freedom Fridays was the day that I said, you know what? I'm going to talk about law of attraction. I'm going to talk about astrology. I'm going to talk about anything I freaking want to talk about that's spiritual, that doesn't fit in any of these categories. And that's going to be my day. And then Saturdays, my now ex-husband, said to me, you need to do something with relationships. I said, great. He goes, do Sexy Saturdays. I said, great. Sexy Saturdays will be for relationships. And I ran that podcast 5 days a week. Not every week I do 5, but every week I do 4. I'm sorry, it was 6 days a week. It was a 6 day a week show. And I do four consistently. And I did it for 18 months and 350 episodes. And I had done well. I made in the charts with the Fit to Love podcast. I was the number one video podcast for like, I don't know, 5 months because there wasn't much competition at the time. But after about 18 months, like I realized that I'm like, wait a minute, I am stuffing so many specific things under one brand. Fit to Love does not tell the person I'm talking about astrology. Fit to Love does not tell the person I'm an expert in biomechanics. Fit to Love does not talk about, right? It's not, the brand wasn't clear. So that's when I had a coach at the time who would have said, no, no, keep it on, stay the course, don't move. And my intuition said, they can't find you. I said, okay. So then I extracted and I didn't stop Fit to Love. It still exists, but I took out and made 5 new shows with a brand about the different days of the week. And so the first one I had was Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. That was my Freedom Friday. And I did it in the order of how fast can I get this off my plate? What funnels do I have to make? What things do I have to sell? And I had nothing to sell on Freedom Fridays because it was just me. I mean, I ended up selling astrology things, like two sessions with me for an astrology reading and stuff because I'm like, I have nothing to sell these people. So I put it out into the world in October of 2016. And then I put out Women, Men, and Relationships, and then Nutrition Alternative Medicine. And then 2 months later, in December of 2016, I had a slew of calls. I was now like the number one Law of Attraction podcast on iTunes, and people were saying, oh my God, this is changing my life. I want more. And I was like, oh, okay, I got nothing to sell you. Literally, I have nothing. I have no lead magnets. I have nowhere to put you. I have no idea what to do with you. But isn't it funny that the one day of the week that was my guilty pleasure was the beacon of energy to pull all of these people towards me and like catapult the show into something that I couldn't make Fit to Love do. So that just gives you a little background on when I started podcasting and kind of the journey up until now.
That's amazing. You know, I so love I love a woman who's so multidimensional. Like you so graciously just shared that. So let me dive into this with you, you know, especially because I'm super curious and then those who are listening. One thing I want to touch in that you said was I'd rather be me than anybody else. You know, and if you heard our couple videos before, or been inside of the Ventura County Business Women, we're always kind of pointing to like, be yourself and all will work out. Can you just say a little bit more about that? You would rather be you than anybody else. Why is that such a pivotal thing in your life?
Because I had a lot to say. You know, when I've been in the acting world for a long time, I mean, not recently, but when I was in acting school, like, you know, and again, no judgment to, please, I've been there. I understand. I knew a girl growing up who hated her life and everything about it. And she would act to get out of her life. She was the most alive in her life when she was on stage because she hated her life. Well, I didn't hate my life and I didn't want to hate my life. And I wanted to come. In fact, I loved acting. I went to NYU. I went to a lot of different schools, Carnegie Mellon, Syracuse University, and NYU. And when I was at NYU, I did a film and theater, like a TV and film class. And my teacher had studied directly with one of the top 5 Stanislavski teachers, Stella Adler. And Stella Adler was not being taught at my school. We weren't doing, we were doing a little bit of Meisner, but we were doing other very self-indulgent actors and methods that said, just be yourself. And I'm like, but I didn't grow up in the 1940s during a war. How do I know how to be myself in that? Like it made no sense logically. So then I finally learned how to like be the character. Go be the character. Put yourself in their shoes. What was it like to get up in the morning and what was happening? What music was playing? What was the environment like? What was the energy like? And I learned how to be in the day in the life of a character and not be me. And that taught me so much. I actually appreciated science and math. I learned more about history, science, and math than I ever learned in school because I made it personal, because it meant something to me. I saw how I reacted in that. So fast forward to, you know, and even today, like I got interviewed last week. I was asked, I saw something on a casting thing and I said, okay. And it wasn't about being someone else, it was about being myself and being like a coach. So I'm like, okay. And I applied and they're like, oh, well, you seem perfect for this. Will you audition? I'm like, sure. So I auditioned and I'm like, oh, that was really fun. Let me go see if I can do more of that. And I signed up for this. Well, it was free. And I'm getting all these, even just this morning, I'm like, looking at all these casting notices. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be you. 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 And I just want to be me. I want to be me in a bigger way because I have worked, through all the contrast that my life has provided from starting a business, being kicked out of my family, from getting divorced. Like I've just gone through the same, traumas, if you will, not the same, but similar traumas that other people have gone through. And I've worked real hard at making peace with myself, loving myself, respecting myself. That was the whole Fit to Love brand.
Yeah.
The book's called Fit to Love, How to Get Physically, Emotionally, and Spiritually Fit to Attract the Love of Your Life. Well, guess what? The love of your life is you.
Mm.
You have to start with you. And so I had come from that place, and I kind of but based on, my parents and my mother and other women and just the culture that we live in, people don't like themselves.
Yeah.
And I have always cared more about making peace with and loving and accepting and respecting who you are, that I thought I'm going to stay here because this feels really good and I got lots to say. I don't need to go be somebody else to say something.
I love that, I've gotten to experience your energy in person. It very much is the same on video too, but there is a confidence that you radiate. And I mean, I feel I'm a very confident person, but just exploring like my own curiosities, my brain is like, how are you this way? Is it because you just put yourself in so many things to learn that allowed you to open up and really be like, yes, I like me and I want to be me? Like, how do we get there? For somebody that is not wanting to be them, how do we get there where you're at?
Well, the path is probably going to be a little different for everybody, right? It's not one linear path, but what my life experience has caused me to seek out is understanding why I couldn't save my marriage, understanding why I had all the mechanics, I had all the tools, I had all the support, I was willing to do anything. Okay, so why didn't it work? And there was an exercise within the kind of therapy that I was doing that really looked at what your core wounds were, and I'll tell you that was a game changer. Not because it didn't make any effect on my marriage. It was gonna fail anyway because I can't control anyone else's desire to play and to want to grow. And I always looked at relationships as a place to start your growth, not a place where you go, okay, I'm gonna get married and then poof, I'm good now. I don't need to do any work. No, it's a playground of being mirrored for the rest of your life. Everything in your life, you're going to get mirrored right back at you. And if you can't handle that, having a business, I've been an entrepreneur since 2001. Okay, that's 24 years. And there is nothing except maybe parenting, and I'm not quite there yet, and I'm not even going to say parenting. Yes, parenting can, but a lot of parents aren't taking their parenting role with an idea that it's a conscious decision to become what your child needs you to be. Most people look at it as, I need you to change because I'm the adult and I know better. Nope, nope. They're coming in at a higher frequency than you are. You are set to grow, and if you're not looking at it like that, then you're going to have some hard times until you learn that lesson. But as a business owner who has to put yourself out there, ask for money, ask to be valued, ask to be taken seriously, prove your worth, so to speak, over and over again, change and honor who you are in the growth process, and decide to take a big fucking leap of faith, which I did in 2018 when I did my first live event. And I was like, okay, I'm doing it. This is who I am. I'm going to do emotional work. I'm not a licensed therapist. I had a coach and a therapist that both loved me to tears. And when I said to them, should I go get certified? They're like, no, you don't need to do that. I was like, okay. And so I was like, that's just all I needed to hear. So now I have a certification. I have made a certification about the work that I do in the world. So it's looking at like, how do I make sense of, again, goes back to the why conversation. Why did this happen? What is it about me? So when I learned my core wounds, oh my God, it was like, whoa, can I get a lightning striking down on my head right now? Because it showed me the pattern that went back. I thought it was just my marriage. I'm like, oh, it's just him. It's just this situation. And then I was like, oh shit, it goes all the way back to my parents. When I was like 5. So that was a game changer for me. And it really taught me, my marriage taught me a lot. It made me a master of law of attraction. When you can learn to be in a frequency and in a reality that you can't see, it's one of the most difficult things about law of attraction. So, fast forward, I've developed programs to address these things. The things that I learned, I turn around and teach others. And then I develop programs to keep helping people learn and grow and accept themselves and have compassion for themselves and others. That's what I'm all about.
I love that. And I think that some of my perspectives, like you are kind of what is possible when women tend to themselves. Well, anyone, we're speaking to women and those around us, but it's like, wow, if women really tend to themselves, and that's why we talk about this in Ventura County Business Women, how many core wounds we have. You insert any other word there: trauma, fear, survival mode, past stuff. We all have something that we are carrying in, and we got some core wounds, right? One of the things that I was looking at, so with all of this stuff, right? You tend to yourself, you know the things that you're a little hooked and need a little love around those core wounds, but then you're also very tapped into like what you're good at, what you like, what you don't like, and what you're calling in and maintaining a frequency. It's almost like, because you have so much stuff, how do you know what is best for you next? Like, it seems like you're in, and not in an unhealthy way, but you're a yes girl. Like whatever is going to kind of come through, it's a yes to a certain extent. Or is there something you could say there about how do you choose what's next when you're kind of just like, what does the world want to give me?
That's a good question. When I first started my business and I was driven by fear and survival, which I'm not gonna lie, sometimes still happens. But right, we go in and out of when we change gears and we decide to like put something new on, you were back at a similar place. But I keep growing and deciding how to handle that and how to be in that. When I first started my business, I would take an entrepreneur. I subscribed to Entrepreneur Magazine. I couldn't get 3 pages in without writing down a million notes about all the things I wanted to create. I had A, B, and C lists that had A, B, and C lists. Okay, like I'd be driving around to clients and talking into a recorder about all the ideas that I was getting every minute about different businesses, different things I could do, different things I could create. It was ongoing and overflowing. Content is never an issue for me, which is why I need podcasts, because it's a place to put content constantly. And I realized it took me a while to realize, and entrepreneurs can be like this, and you'll call yourselves ADD, like, oh, I'm ADD. No, you're just creative. But it's figuring out, and as I continued through, it's about the embodiment is a huge piece, but it's the connection and the tapping into what is right for you. So to go back to law of attraction, it's just two choices. You're either in alignment or you're out of alignment. It's really that simple. So when you're in alignment, you listen to those impulses. When you're out of alignment, you do not listen to those impulses because it's going to keep you out of alignment. They're based in fear. So for me, it's understanding that when I'm in alignment and I get the download, then you follow that and you follow it until you get a different download. And I've done enough at this point that it works when I'm in alignment. When I used to do things, I've created so many products. I am the queen of making like the CDs with the big, whatever. I made all this stuff out of fear and it didn't sell as well because it was something that I thought I should make. It was so fast forward to now I practiced for a couple of years of only moving when my physical body, when my intuition said, okay, this is a definite yes. And sometimes you can ask for signs. If you're not sure, you go, okay, give me a sign about that. And then you get one sign, you're still not convinced, give me another sign about that. Still not convinced. For me, when I decided that this needed to be a podcast, it was a very physical body feeling. You got goosebumps. I got the lightning bolt through the head, and I was like, "Oh God, I don't want to do this." But Source and Creator and my inner being is saying this is where you got to go next. Do I have why? Because it's going to satisfy and help a lot of people. It's going to help us both in business. It's going to help people that are listening be inspired. I think that again, it's the personal growth that happens not by accident when you're a business owner. If you do not know yet that your business will grow you, get out now. If you are afraid of growing or changing, get out now. A business is not just about bringing in money. If you are connected to what you are doing in the world, you are on purpose, you are living your dharma, you are in your zone of genius. There is a price to pay for living your purpose. And I'm telling you, it's going to be scary, but that's going to grow you and you're going to be better for it. I am not this today because I didn't face some really hard fucking shit, right? I mean, I had a repo on my car when I first moved to California. I was in the toy. Oh my God, so many things. Like so many law of attraction stories about the fear and the like crazy workaholic, like living by the fax machine, right? That tells you how long ago that was, in 2001. But I think that if you're just a business owner starting out, it doesn't have to be this hard. I'm going to explain, as we're going to talk about on this podcast, different ways that you can manage and different goals that you have. It's like starting a podcast. If you start a podcast and have no idea what your expectations are, but you need to make money, isn't going to work out. I don't need to make money from this. Will I? Probably. But I don't need to, because that's not why I started it. I started because I'm following. And as I explained earlier with Fit to Love, I didn't even need to make money with Fit to Love for 2 years. I just needed to get my content out because I'm tired of repeating the same lesson over and over again. And I still, to this day, use that same content with clients that I have now. I don't want to teach the same lesson over and over again. I want you to go listen to it on the show, and then we can apply it to your life. And that's what we're going to do together, is utilize the information more specifically. So I think that everybody has to take a real look at, why are you starting your business? If it's just for money, I'm going to say I don't think that's enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when I did pretty good, doing the marketing company, when I had that, but it was always because I have a small child. I'm not in a good situation. I need money. And it was so, I mean, I hated everything about being a business owner back then. I mean, the logistics of the business to everything that I was getting brought up as, oh, I'm lazy, I'm unproductive, I don't know the answers. And so I kind of want to explore just a little bit more of this convo because, with Ventura County Business Women, it's getting created to address that. Yes, you need a space to come be a badass in what you do, an expert in your field, but we also need to, in a very healthy, impactful, encouraging way, still address what we're navigating as human beings. And so we've kind of been touching on this, um, I feel like our community is starting to train and really pull for, like, tend to yourself. So when you show up in community, it's not weird. You're not, I got to make sales. People can feel that. They're like, whoa, what are you trying to get from me? It's more like women are, dropping their guard, taking a breath, really like, who am I and how do I want to show up and be supported? So for somebody that is coming in to be a conscious business owner, and maybe that's just simply really understanding themselves well enough to create a business that they actually enjoy, can you kind of just share your thoughts how, like, taking the time to actually address what is happening on the insides, how does that actually make a difference for business growth?
It makes all the difference, as I'm sure you already know, because as you keep attracting more people into VCBW, you say it every time. You're like, thank you for letting my dreams come true. Like, I feel so honored to have this business, because you attended to what your need was community. And I've created community in my podcast. And so we get together, I mean, I have a ton of stuff online, but I do a live in-person event, and people come because they are friends. They've been growing together for the last couple of years, if not longer. I've had people listen to my show since 2016. People have been with me that long. I just had someone come back into the community, just join my most recent course, and she's coming to my live event, who was back in 2019 in like a beta mastermind that I did. And I was like, where you been? I miss you. Like, welcome back, right? Because I'm growing and they're growing. And when it comes to, looking at how do you address, in business, from yourself and making money and showing up, it is a process, and it's one step at a time. And it's attending to yourself by saying, here's what my needs are. In fact, I will invite people, I will give you a download that normally I just, yeah, finding it's going to be funny. I have a page. It's called the Feelings and Needs list. And every time I talk about it, I never have one. Anyway, it's a list. And I'm going to give you a link to get it. It's jjflizanes.com/feelings list. That's feelings with an S. And on this list is 100 different feeling words on the top. And then at the bottom, there are 86 or 85 basic human needs. If you do not understand, and this exercise I teach in all my courses, and I talk about it on the podcast, and I teach it a lot because it's the foundation of, if you don't know what your needs are, then you are subconsciously trying to get your needs met all the time and not being very successful because you don't even know what that is. And one exercise I recommend everybody do is to go print that out. First of all, download it and print many, many, many copies. Now, there's an exercise we're not going to talk about right now. I'll direct you to a different podcast to listen to that, or multiple podcasts. But what I want you to do as a business owner, and as a person, as a woman, Just take that list, print it out, and without any context, with no story not being triggered, you go and circle all the needs that are not being met in your life that you want to get met. And I say that because on there's like beauty, and some people are like, I don't care about beauty. So then don't circle it. But circle the needs that are not getting met. And there is your blueprint for what you're going to work on. And if you don't address that, you're because even starting a business is getting a need met. I started a business because I wanted freedom. I started a business because I wanted creativity. I love, even today, one of my members in one of my groups, she's trying, I'm working on her Dharma and Zone of Genius, and she's timid about like stepping out because she's a very successful salesperson in dentistry. And when she retires, she wants to do something fun, but she's real, like, she doesn't need the money. And I was like, oh, but she loves angels. I'm like, oh, we could do something on angels and guides and angel numbers. And anyway, and that lit me up. I'm like, shit, I should do that. I want to do that next, right? So, but it's also there's divine timing. Back in 2020, my very first year of doing my mastermind, at that live event, because we still went live, no matter what, because nobody was telling me what to do. We went to Atlanta and we did this whole networking in person, and I came up with this idea of all these wonderful guests that I've had, and it was called the consciousness upgrade, and I was going to make it a product. That was 2020. Fast forward, I did nothing with that until last year. Divine timing, 2024, I did the Consciousness Upgrade Summit. And I invited some of the biggest heavy hitters I've had on the podcast. And I did this great summit, and thousands of people came to it, and hundreds of people bought it, right? But I knew that this was something that I wanted to create, but the timing wasn't right. So the navigation to me in business is attending to yourself, getting into alignment, following the impulse when you get it, and knowing that if it's a good enough idea that's meant to be, it will surface. You will get the nudge, and you will know when the divine timing is to create it.
Absolutely. And then it's like if you are in that space to actually hear it and listen and integrate, that's how we gonna make magic. Okay, so drop me just to make this like super clear. So you do all of these things, but like right now you have the podcast that people can listen to. And then if they want to work with you, like what does that look like? If they want a podcast like you and I are doing, or yeah, like how could people work with you right now?
Well, I would go to jjflizanes.com, and there are three kind of ways to start the conversation. There are three master classes. The first one is on 3 reasons why talk therapy is ineffective. And that will put you on you'll get to watch that master class. So if it's something personal, then you'll understand how I work differently and why I think what I'm doing that I've learned from some therapists and then some not, is more effective than most traditional talk therapy. Again, if a therapy is working for you, you love your therapist, then don't worry, this is not for you. But there are many people who've been very failed by traditional talk therapy and wonder why they're no better after 7 years. So, and they're reacting the same way with the same triggers. So that's the first thing. The second is how emotions affect healing and disease. So if you're dealing with a chronic condition or cancer or something that you can't get out of, and you tried all the Western medicine things and all the healing things, but you haven't looked at the emotional piece yet. That's another masterclass that's available for you. And then the third one is three fastest ways to make money podcasting. So we're going to pivot a little bit and do the podcasting piece. So that would be something to consume. And at the end of that, there's a link for you to sign up for a consultation, a free kind of 30-minute, 20-minute consultation. I don't do free consultations with just anybody. I would say go listen to the show. I have a network. It's called the Empowering Minds Network. There's about 16 or 17 or 18 shows now, and you can pick and choose whatever calls to you. I want you to know, like, and trust me before we get involved. I have content for days. You will never catch up. So figure out what you're interested in. If you want me to curate a list for you, I'm happy to send you to some of the most powerful episodes. On jjflizanes.com, there is a link under the podcast that says my favorite episodes. And those are some of my favorite episodes. So you might want to start there and then just find the content that speaks to you, because that's what's great about having a podcast is that I don't have to. That's why I didn't want to network, because networking is I'm going to do the dance. Da, 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 here's who I am, and here's why you should trust me. And I don't have time for that. People listen to the show and they know me, they like me, they trust me. And when they're ready, they come forward, and it's the easiest sale ever, because they're like, I trust you. I hear what you have to say. It resonates with me, and I'm ready. And I'm like, cool, let's go. And then there are all kinds of different programs and products and things that you can get involved in.
And last, the episode you and I did together, you asked me a really great question. I cannot Hello. I have a little house baby saying hello to us on the podcast. Love that. Wilden. On the last podcast we did, you had asked me something along the lines, and I wish I could remember what it was, but I got to share kind of like my bigger vision. It's not like I'm building out some community so I could run networking events. There was the deeper, I really want individuals to be well so then communities can be well. Is there anything that maybe you didn't get to share here that's more about the big picture of why you are doing anything that you're doing in life, what the passion, the purpose is there?
Yeah, I think my number one message is that anything is possible and that there is an answer for you that you just haven't found yet. Too many people suffer. I'm writing my fourth book and in the process. And currently it's called Allowing More. Uncover your core wound map to rewire the patterns blocking love, joy, success, and abundance, or something like that. It's going to change, but that's the basic premise of it. And it's the point of saying there are so many people suffering with so many things, from health things to emotional things. I mean, we just had an announcement of a couple other suicides. What we're doing is not working. That's why I don't think medicating yourself, numbing yourself, addictions, which everyone's an addict, by the way, it doesn't matter. You could just be having a control addiction, but I promise you, I don't want to hear about you're sober, blah blah blah. Excellent, and guess what? You probably have a control addiction now. Everybody has an addictions. It's the way that we cope. It's the way that we feel safe. It's our trauma response to life. And until we look beneath the surface and not about the thing that you think caused your addiction, nope, wasn't the thing, wasn't the drug, wasn't the alcohol, wasn't the food, wasn't the shopping. There is internal emotions that you have that when you understand how to be with them, how to process them, what they mean for you, when you can see them differently. There's a very famous quote there are two quotes I'm going to say. One is mine that came over the years, and one is from someone very famous who has left this world, Wayne Dyer. It's when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's not about changing the things, it's about changing the way you look at things. And when you understand on a deeper level about things, you will change the way you look at things and they will change. And then the last quote I'll leave you with, which is mine that happened during COVID, or maybe before COVID. Yeah, definitely before COVID, because I was hanging out with some therapists and I knew their clients. I was working with their clients and I was seeing the way people were handling therapy situations and I was seeing compensation. I'm like, this isn't healing. Healing, so here's my quote, healing is when you're different in the same situation. So many times people want to get divorced, quit their job, move somewhere else. Guess what? You take you with you. When you're different in the same situation is when you are healing, not getting rid of your circumstances. That is victim mentality of saying, well, it's their fault, it's this fault, it's because of this. You got to take responsibility. So when you do that and you have personal power and you understand how to get your feelings met and your needs met, you feel amazing. And that is something I want everyone to have.
Amen. I know you brought little tears to my eyes because I little you can hear it in my voice. I'm so freaking excited to do this podcast with you for like literally because of that. Wow. Absolutely. Is, even in the business conversations, the personal things that happen and arise, dude, like we're all bumping up against them. They just all have different stories to it, but the feelings are all the freaking same. And if you can get in control of what's happening internal, then, we can do different things with more power and alignment externally. And so I'm just, wow. I know listen, I always say this, but who you are, and we talked about that on the last podcast of receiving, go listen to it. But this is what happens when the right people show up. Like, I'm empowered, you're empowered, we got connected, we're sharing this podcast, the people that are going to hear what you just said, because I'm like, yes, exactly, be somebody different in the same situations. You're freaking amazing.
Thanks, Tony. So are you. I think we're a good team on this. I think that we're going to have a lot of good things to share with people who are listening from we have, a great it's a good complement of the things that we've done and how we've grown and the things that we've dealt with, and then where we are in life and what we're both learning. Because let's be clear, I'm also still learning. I bump up
Yeah.
against, I mean, every new level is a new growth period, and you're never
Yeah.
going to stop because it's life. That's why you came in. That's why you incarnated in this body. Is you came to have
Yep.
an experience. You didn't come to be a robot. You didn't come to like get something and then be done and flatline. This
Yeah.
is a growth opportunity and expansion all the time. And when no matter where you are, let's say you're at the most successful you've ever been, there's another level. And it doesn't have to mean more money or more people. It can mean whatever it means for you. But I like allowing in more. That's why I've renamed the book Allowing More. So just remember, everyone who's out there, the growth path never ends. Your skill set to handle it, to understand it, to have compassion with it, to ask for help will change when you start to learn these things, and it will make it smoother and easier. Not every day, but in general. So I'm still learning too. I got some lessons I'm learning right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the cool thing about, us kind of doing the podcast. And, again, both of us, we were not in necessarily the space of like, yeah, let's do a podcast. It was like, all right, this is what it is. Let's go. Answering the call. What am I saying? Where am I going with this? I'm excited for us to showcase and set the tone of what's possible and give other people permission. Like, yes, you and I, we have expertise in areas. We know some things about the mind, the body, energy, physical, all that jazz. But we're just down to have an open, transparent, authentic conversation, sharing where we're at, speak with other people in the hopes that whoever's listening, they get their magic also. So, I appreciate that level of just openness, and because that's what transformed my life and my community. I started getting real, I started telling the fucking truth, really owning who I am and being like, yeah, I still got a lot of lessons to learn. By no means do I know everything, but I'm down to learn and grow with people. So I think that will make out for a good podcast, a good show.
Well, I hope so. And if you've loved today's episode or anything you've listened to so far, we'd love for you to subscribe. We'd love you to rate and review the podcast. It's just help us kind of get out to more people. And again, if you are interested in downloading that sheet that I talked about, I'll put the links in the show notes. It's jjflizanes.com/feelings list. And then just check out my site, check out the podcasts, empoweringmindsnetwork.com. Again, you'll check all the show notes and whatever speaks to you. Again, there's so much free content. I even have a sales training for podcasters podcast with my partner. And I would say if you suck at sales, doesn't matter if you're a podcaster or not, listen to that episode, listen to that
Yeah.
podcast, because sales is the bridge between your passion and making it your lifestyle. So
Yes.
making it something that supports you, because the money piece is energy, and we got to be able to ask for the energy when we're giving energy. And that may be another topic you and I'll talk about, is that whole energy exchange, because women are just
Yes.
over givers and undervalue themselves and
Yeah.
undercharge and all that stuff. So hopefully we'll see you on the podcast. Please subscribe, rate, review, and let us know if there's anything else we can do for you. We're looking forward to hearing your stories and for you taking all the information that you learned from the show and living it in your life.